Now here's the favorite perk that is getting any attention, Jolt. I am a major Jolt enjoyer. It is the time we have all been waiting for. Jolt no longer has a cooldown. What is up, YouTube? Do I have an incredible video for you today? We are going to be going over the latest release on the developer update for the mid-chapter patch coming up here shortly. The PTB starting next week. This is the patch that is going to supposedly rework the entire meta. And when we get to the perk reworks, let me tell you, there are some big changes coming. Initial thought, I'm excited for. I think it is definitely time to do that. Change the game up, spice it up. But today we're going to be going through all the changes from the progression system all the way through to the perks. So let's dive in. So first things first, we have the overhauled progression system. So everybody knows, you play DBD long enough, it's a grind, right? It is absolutely a grind. So when you take that into account, they have made it to where prestiging and the progression of that has been altered. So instead of doing your normal prestige, you have to go back through the blood web, level 50, relearn everything, yada yada. They are now making it to where once you prestige a character, it will unlock that specific tier of that character's teachable. So if you have Clown, Coulrophobia, one of his perks, Pop, another one, Bamboozle. Once you prestige 1, 2, and 3, once you get to each corresponding tier, it will prestige, or not prestige, but tier that perk up. So, which is definitely helping with that grind. There's no more reset, so you do keep all your items, your add-ons, which for me is why I didn't prestige. Now I have no excuse not to. So Nia finally gets the bloody cosmetic. I'm excited for that. But they've also expanded it. So reaching levels 4, 5, and 6 will give that bloodied cosmetic that I was talking about. But then you can go to 7, 8, and 9, which will grant the player, the user, the cosmetic for their teachable perk. So it's a charm that goes on the belt and or on the hook for the killer. So kind of an interesting way to do that. I kind of like that a lot. Eliminates the grind. You know, all those people that did the P3 level 50s, sorry for you. But I'm glad that I did not prestige. But they are giving away, or not giving away, but they are giving you an icon, a special icon if you did prestige somebody prior to all this. As kind of like a legacy-ish type thing, right? Bring back legacy. Anyway, we've got the Shrine of Secrets. Unlike before, where the Shrine of Secrets would offer teachable perks that then needed to be found in blood webs, the Shrine will now allow you to purchase the perks directly. Purchasing a perk through the Shrine of Secrets will make the Tier 1 version of it immediately available on all killers or survivors. So instead of having to find it in the blood web, it will automatically be equipped to your survivor and or killer, which for new players, that's pretty awesome. So I do like that a lot. And then you can, of course, purchase that perk again to increase its tier. So Tier 1 would be the version immediately available. Purchase again, tier it up, tier it up. Matchmaking incentives. It does appear that they are going to be working on matchmaking some more. Let's see, being an asymmetrical game, which we know that's what Dead by Daylight is. Queue times, whenever I'm a killer survivor, too much for that. Oh, so this is more so around slower queue times, what it looks like. So how daytime survivor queues are instant, nighttime you're seeing, you know, killer queues be instant. So I think this is more so that incentive to play one side or the other. So the bonus will range from 25% to 100% depending on the demand level. So if it is really heavy on survivor, they're going to offer a good reward for killer and vice versa. And matchmaking incentives are unique to you and depend on your matchmaking ratings and region. Okay, so depending on what maybe your MMR is and where you're from, I kind of like that. This is intended. Nice. Heads up, matchmaking incentives will be disabled if crossplay is turned off. So you have to keep your crossplay on to get that incentive, which does make sense to me. So that's just kind of a quick overview of that. There's nothing too crazy, but that just kind of tells me that they are bringing that in sooner than later. Thankfully, because as you know, I am a Q main where I like to play whichever side is faster. Well, now, as you'll see later, there's some things that they're changing to blood points and the perks that are with those. So I am going to do whatever it takes to get some more blood points because I'm broke. I need blood points. Let's see, gameplay updates. We've got generator speed. So this is a huge change. Gen speeds are now going from 80 seconds to 90 seconds. You may not think that 10 seconds is that big of a deal, but let me tell you, when it comes to in a chase, right, 10 seconds feels like forever. And as a killer, it feels like no time at all. So it's a big enough change, I think, to be felt as a survivor running with the killer. I think for a killer, it's a big enough effect to feel like 5 gens don't pop off one chase, right? So I'm excited to see that. The second change they are also making is kicking a generator will now instantly remove 2.5% of the maximum progress off a gen. That right there is great because as we know, you kick a gen, nothing really happens initially, and then it slowly ticks down, right? 0.04%, right? Or 4% per second, I think is what the rate was. Point being, not anything that you're going to notice, especially if you have a team that's really good about coming back and forth and touching the gen. You're not really going to see any decrease in that gen. So right off the top, that's actually pretty awesome. More meaningful, even if Survivor stops, it's regressing shortly after. So it does still regress, it sounds like, after the kick, but it takes 2.5% directly off the top. But basically, their idea behind this is to reduce the reliance on passive slowdowns that killers use, and it increases interaction between killers and survivors. So I do kind of like that. General killer improvement. So they have sped up the time it takes to break walls and pallets by 10%. So pretty much from 2.6 seconds to 2.34. And gens will also be kicked 10% faster. So 1.8 seconds versus 2 seconds. It may seem small as it says here, but as a killer, or you definitely notice a difference in speed up, right? It's almost like having an equipped fire up, right? So I'm okay with that. They've reduced the cooldown for successful basic attack by 10%. So instead of 3 seconds, 2.7 seconds. And then reducing the duration of the survivor's speed boost upon being hit by 10% as well. So you no longer have, you're not going to be able to get as far after you get hit as a survivor. So in a sense, it's going to make chases, I think, end quicker while increasing the gen time. You might see games take a little longer, I guess, because survivors are going to have to play safer. So interesting. Bloodlust. So this for me, I think is something that a lot of people are overlooking. The bloodlust, essentially buff. So bloodlust typically would tier up after 15 seconds in chase. And then it would go up each tier to bloodlust level 3 at 45 seconds. Well, they have adjusted that from 15, or kept tier 1 normal, but buffed tier 2 and 3 to 25 and 35, or yeah, 35 seconds opposed to 30 and 45. That to me is a big thing because if you play enough killer, you already see where survivors are already in that pre-drop meta, right? They're pre-throwing pallets. This is going to make them do so even more so, because if you have a survivor that is somewhat competent in running, you're going to see bloodlust come pretty quick. And then tier 2. Well, we've seen some wonky hits happen on bloodlust level 1. So you're going to see pre-drop pallets, I think, happen more frequently because they're going to play it safer. So instead of being able to get those, third loop, fourth loop on the same, loop there, you're going to have to throw it at 2, especially if there's bloodlust. I do think that you're going to see some crazier hits. I do think that it's going to make pallets stay down longer, as killers are going to try to get that bloodlust faster. I don't know. I'm curious to see how this impacts the gameplay. I do think it's going to have a more of a pre-drop meta come into play opposed to a breaking the pallet. I don't know. I think it's going to be. I don't think this will be necessarily great for killers. I think if anything, it's going to kind of hinder them. But we won't know until we see it. So, camping and tunneling. I like that they address this. But you know, from a survivor, there's really not a whole lot you can do. If a killer really wants you out of the game, they're going to get you out of the game. And this is coming from a killer main. I have seen killers go for that. I try not to tunnel. If it is, it's usually accidental. But I am 100% behind what they did as far as how to help combat tunneling. Moving forward, survivors will receive a 5-second endurance effect after being unhooked. This gives the unhooked survivor an opportunity to reach a nearby window or pallet, or for another survivor to position themselves for a protection hit. So built-in BT at a low level, but still 5 seconds of endurance. Yeah, killers can potentially wait this out, but here's the other part. They get 7% haste effect for 5 seconds on top of that. So they're going to be faster and untouchable for 5 seconds. That's enough to make a difference. So yes, again, killers can potentially wait it out. As we'll read later, there are going to be some buffs to kind of help that endurance effect after coming off the hook. But the other side of that is that if a survivor does what they're calling a conspicuous action, which is repairing a generator, healing yourself or others, cleansing or blessing a totem, sabotaging a hook, unhooking others, or opening an exit gate, you are no longer safe. It ends that. Almost like when they brought out the new DS. This is the same type of concept. But I do think that now there's no necessarily reason to run borrowed time. I think that that little bit there is enough to not be overpowered, but it's enough to help give a cushion on those unhooks. So good job there. I'm definitely okay with this. As a killer main, I think this is necessary for the general survivor gameplay and experience, as a lot of killers do tunnel off hook and camp. This kind of helps alleviate, I guess, the solo queue side of it if you are by yourself and getting farmed. We've all been there. But, you know, good things either way. So here we are. We are now moving into the meta perk changes. As you see, the perks that they are altering, different pictures here. But for killers, Barbecue and Chili, Ruin, Pop Goes the Weasel, Corrupt, Tinkerer, NOED, Pain Resonance. For survivors, you've got Dead Hard, Borrowed Time, Decisive Strike, Iron Will, Self-Care, Spine Chill, all being altered here. These are some of the most used perks in the game currently. So I can't wait to look into it. And this is just some graphs of what they've used. Makes sense. I think those perks all make sense there. So Barbecue and Chili. As we know, Barbecue and Chili does give us auras of survivors with outside of, I think it's 40 meters for a short duration. And then the biggest part is the blood points per stack, right? Well, what they have done now is they have actually removed the blood point from this blood point multiplier from this perk. So now it will only be there for the aura reading. So this will make it to where bringing barbecue isn't a necessity anymore. At the highest level, barbecue isn't really used a whole lot. But hey, I like my blood points. All right. And nothing better than a barbecue snipe with Huntress, you know, so you can still run it for those purposes, but from the blood point factor, it is definitely going to not be there. Kind of making, I think there are better aura perks after this now, like Fledge the Rage, Bitter Murmur, you know, things like that might be better suited with other than Barbecue and Chili, but who knows? We'll see. Like I said, blood points was a big incentive there. Ruin. So Ruin, everybody knows, at the max tier, it is a 200% regression on gens passively. Well, now they are reducing that speed to 50, 75, and 100%, down from 100, 150, and 200%, each tier level accordingly. And then after a survivor is killed, Ruin will automatically deactivate. So after you get your first death, it doesn't do anything. So Again, they just nerfed Ruin to the ground. There is no point, in my opinion, to run Ruin. I mean, granted, you took that chance of them cleansing it, like in the past, right? You could probably rotate your hooks to make it last longer, but realistically, it's not a factor anymore. I would rather run a Call of Brine, as Call of Brine is much more effective. It's on-demand, old Ruin moving forward, right? Another big adjustment. Pop goes the weasel. So Pop, as anybody knows, in a 3-gen is the most annoying thing to deal with, because if you give up any hook, any gen progression you have is gone. 25% off the top, miserable. Well, now that kicking a gen now removes 2.5%, period, this perk is now going to remove 20% of the generator's current progress. So if you were at 99% on that gen, it will remove 20% of that 99%. If you were at 25%, it will remove 20% of that 25%, if that makes sense, right? So basically, depending on how far along that gen is, depends on how effective Pop is. So it's really going to make you go after the gens that are pushing along. And if there are no gens really working, it's invaluable. So still, I think a good perk to run, but not as effective as it used to be, which is good. I mean, I think it's a little bit more balanced than it was before. Not that I thought it was OP, but it does make it a little bit more manageable. So moving on, another big adjustment is Corrupt Intervention. This is probably one of the perks that I have ran since day one. You know, something about being able to block off 3 gens furthest away from you. Survivors typically spawn in that Corrupt. You're able to find survivors quicker because of that. Now, once a survivor enters the dying state, Corrupt is no longer active. It used to run for a total of, I believe it's 2 minutes. This was kind of my gauge when I was in my speedrunning days on, okay, how far along am I? Okay, we still got Corrupt up, so we're at 2 minutes now. It's over. I've already got 3 people on hook. Okay, we got a chance, right? Well, now, that initial dying state, Corrupt is gone. Good killers are not going to get any value from Corrupt. Plain and simple. It may still push them, but as soon as you get that down, they're going to immediately jump on gens. It could work, but, you know, somebody like me, I could get 2 to 3 hooks before Corrupt is up. Now you're only going to get 1. So, kind of nerfed quite a bit. I think we'll still see it ran a decent amount, but it's not going to be near as effective as it was. Especially against, you know, some of your S-tier killers where they can get a lot of value from that. Now it's not going to matter. Tinkerer. So this one's really quite interesting. When a gen reaches 70% progress, the killer essentially is undetectable, and they know exactly where the gen is being worked on. Well, now they have changed it to where it only works once per generator, whereas before, if you had a gen regression perk, if they went over 70 and then dropped below 70 and then hit 70 again, it would re-ping the killer. Now it only pings once, and it is only at 90% of that gen. Wait, did I read that correctly? Right? Tinker's popular choice. Tinker can only activate once per generator, but with that base change increase to 90 kills, we'll have extra. Yeah, so still 70. My fault. I read that because the gen is increased to 90. My fault. It's still going to go off at 70%, but it will only take one time of it going off. So if you regress it below 70, you get no extra value. But it does give you extra time to get to that gen, because we've all been there where we're running Tinkerer and it goes off and we're like, oh shoot, and by the time we get to that gen, it's already done. So this hopefully will work. Next we have NOED. I think this one is a big one. NOED is universally considered one of the most hated perk probably in Dead by Daylight. I don't know why. It is very easy to counter. But with that being said, they have made it to where instead of it being essentially you have to go search for it right now, or you could do all the totems before that. It won't proc. Well, now you can still do that, but survivors will now see the hex totems aura within 4 meters upon activation, and then the range will increase to 24 meters over the course of 30 seconds. So as time continues with NOED active, you will be able to see it from further and further away, helping the survivors locate NOED to cleanse it, to help altruistic plays in endgame. I think that's great. I am not upset about this. because I don't think NOED was that great to begin with. I think it's very easy to counter. So for survivors that struggled with it, I think this will be helpful for them. And I don't think NOED's really going to get ran as much because survivors aren't going to want it to get cleansed or anybody to be able to find it that quickly. So NOED off the table. Pain Resonance. So this one I think is still going to get used a lot. Basically, this is a perk for someone like myself where I don't like to kick gens. I like to just either have something like a Jolt in the past, or a Thana, which is a slower gen pace, or even this where I have to earn my gen regression. So what it used to do is when you hook the survivor, the gen furthest along would explode. Any survivor on that gen would scream out. Well, now they are removing the loud noise notification. Instead of exploding, the affected gen will now spark upon losing progress, and the survivor will no longer scream. We believe this will ensure Pain Resonance remains a strong regression perk while limiting its informational aspect. So they're doing that so that way it's still strong, but you're not getting all that info of where the survivors are and whatnot. I still think it's going to be great for the gen regression. I do enjoy that. So from the nerfs, I think these are all great nerfs. I'm not really upset about any of them other than maybe Corrupt, which, you know, I get why they do it or why they're doing it. It was just one of my crutch perks, no lie. And then of course Barbecue being, I do like blood points. So curious to see how the progression works with the blood points less coming forth from perks. Not bad for the nerfs right now. So here we have the survivor side of it. So now you've got Dead Hard, every killer main's least favorite perk, and every survivor main's least favorite perk. I say that because good survivors can make Dead Hard work well. I'm a big believer in that. Dead Hard makes survivors play sloppy, and so they can get away with making a lot of mistakes, and Dead Hard will save them. So it almost promotes not playing the game, I guess, optimally, if you want to use a better word or a word for that. I've just never been a big fan of Dead Hard. I don't use Dead Hard. And my biggest thing is it always ruins a great play, right? Like, I'm like, man, I hit this hatchet perfect. Dead Hard. Hear the squish. And nothing. So either way, so the way it's used is to dodge a hit or gain distance to get to like a pallet, a window, whatever. Now they're getting rid of that to where Dead Hard will now provide the endurance effect for 1 second when activated, opposed to the distance aspect. So basically it'll activate like a BT type hit. So it'll allow you to avoid 1 hit. And if used correctly, could be effective, but Dead Hard is not going to be the same. However, I could still see people baiting Dead Hard by just stopping in place, whatever it may be. Killers are going to get greedy, try to go for the hit, right? Because they see the survivor stopped, whatever it may be. But people are going to find a way to use it. But it is basically a 1 hit for free. You have DS. So DS very much was nerfed back kind of when I started. I'd say maybe a few months into when I started playing this game. To where, if you touch anything within so many seconds, 60 seconds, I believe it is, you aren't able to use it. Whereas now, they're going to be nerfing it to where Decisive Strike will now deactivate once the exit gates are powered. So in those situations where you go down the exit gate after being unhooked and you can still get out for free because you have DS, that is no longer the case. In addition, the stun duration has been reduced from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, which is kind of big for killer, as they're not going to be able to get as far away. 5 seconds, you can get completely out of sight, out of mind. 3 seconds, not so much. And again, it'll also have that conspicuous actions essential getting rid of the perk, which I think the biggest thing to take from that is before old DS, or the current DS, you can work on exit gates and it would still be active. So you could get yanked off the exit gate. I've pulled the play off many times, and you would hit them with DS, get away. Now, if you touch that exit gate, you're going down. You don't get DS. So that's kind of huge. I think people haven't really paid attention to that small detail there. But DS will be deactivated from that. Borrowed time. since they made Borrowed Time essentially base kit, Borrowed Time is now built to extend onto that base kit. So will now extend the duration of endurance effect of unhooked survivors by 6, 8 to 10 seconds and increase the movement speed bonus duration by 10 seconds. So you'll see, I don't think you'll see Borrowed Time near as much, but I do think we'll still see it some, in a sense that it will kind of help you get away. But I do think that there's a perk coming up that will be used more than Borrowed Time. But I definitely think those won't be used as much. Iron Will, this one kills me. Iron Will is one of my favorite perks to run as a survivor. There's so many cool plays you can run with Iron Will. Booty techs, slow vaulting, other side of windows, confusing the killers. There's a lot of things that you can do with Iron Will. Severely, I mean, it's one of the most overrated, underrated perks. I don't know how else to explain that, but there's so much you can do with that. Flashlight saves are going to be tougher. As we are now lowering the grunts of pain reduced to 25, 50, and 75%. At full usage current, they cannot hear a thing from Iron Will. So I think it'll still be interesting to run. I think we can still get value, but not near as much to people with good headphones. Also, it'll no longer activate when exhausted. So people that run exhaustion perks with Iron Will are still going to be heard fairly well. So another nerf to a wonderful perk. I'll miss you. This one I think is comical, self-care. I guess at the highest MMR, self-care is used a lot. I don't see the value in it, as self-care takes a lot of time away from working on gens. But they're reducing it to where the heal speed is now lowered to 25, 30, and 35% speed. And the item efficiency bonus has been removed entirely. So it does speed up the healing factor when using an item. But that's it. And you're able to heal yourself. So, yeah. By self-care. I think it's funny. Spine Chill is another one. So I've actually been reading a lot on the forums, a lot on Twitter about Spine Chill. How Spine Chill is actually a perk used a lot by the hearing impaired community, people that can't hear. And Spine Chill is the perk they run to let them know if the killer's coming or close by or looking at their direction. And now with the nerf they've made to Spine Chill, it's going to be really tough. So I kind of agree with the community in that regard, that Spine Chill really, I mean, if you wanted to remove, as it says, the vault speed bonus here at the bottom, do that. But I think you should still have the lit up icon to some extent, as I think that you're alienating a part of the community, unintentionally, I think, but still alienating them nonetheless. So what perk are they going to be able to run instead to kind of help give information? My recommendation, there's Alert that's really great. That's something that could be used instead of, I do like Alert, maybe a Dark Sense. I mean, maybe even Object if you had to, right? Because you're going to see the killer. But Spine Chill is not near as effective. It only activates if the killer has a clear line of sight to the survivor. So if they're standing behind a wall and look at you, it's not going to trigger. So this will remove the awkward counterplay where the killer must look away to ensure a stealthy approach. It does stink from the killer side of things if you're playing a stealthy killer and they're all running Spine Chill. Been there, done that. I understand why they brought it in, but I do see why there is frustration on this perk specifically. But then, like I said earlier, they are getting rid of the vaulting aspect of Spine Chill. So those are all the meta perk changes. I think those are all, in my opinion, nerfs. There's not one that I really think is a buff of these meta perks, right? So now we're getting into what I think are going to be the new meta perks. You've got Overcharge. Along with its current effects, Overcharge will cause a kicked generator's regression speed to grow from 100% to 400% over the course of 30 seconds. So 400% off the top of a gen is going to be insane if they do not touch that gen. You're going to shred gen progress with this perk. Along with the fact that they have to hit that hard skill check on top of that, right? Survivors will want to stop this generator from regressing as soon as possible. I think Overcharge is going to be used a ton. Eruption, we have upped the generator regression penalty to 10% and the duration of the incapacitated effect to 15, 20, and 25%. I believe the old Eruption was 8% and the incapacitated was a max of 10 seconds, possibly. Either way, this is a big buff. from the regression plus to the incapacitated, hard word to say, sorry, which means they're not going to be sitting on gens or doing anything for that matter. So solid increase. I don't think it's going to be used a ton, but it still helps. Knockout, Bubba Teachable, something where people who get left on the ground have a little, when you get knocked out, screen goes darker, can't be seen by other survivors. Well, now knockout will cause dying survivors to crawl 50% slower for 15 seconds and reduce the recovery speed by 25%. So if you get hit with knockout, it's going to be a minute before you get up. It's almost like a sloppy butcher. Oh, can you imagine running this with sloppy butcher? I wonder if that stacks, because when you recover with sloppy, or somebody's healing you with sloppy while you're on the ground, it's slower. So it's almost like, interesting. So it's basically a sloppy butcher for recovering. So a counter for Unbreakable and Tenacity. Interesting. Okay. So moving on, we got Coulrophobia. Healing in the killer's terror radius is unappealing, right? With Coulrophobia, it slows it down. And I believe you use healing items faster also. It will also increase the speed of skill checks by 50% on top of the current effect. I don't think that's necessarily going to impact it a ton. I think people that aren't paying attention, streamers, things like that, are definitely going to struggle with this, but I don't think it's going to be used near as much. Same with Knockout. I think it'll be situational, maybe Adept, or somebody using a specific build. I'm not thinking these two perks are going to get used a ton. Dark Devotion. This perk is great for confusing and sneaking up on the survivor. So what it does now is if you hit the obsession, your terror radius transfers to the obsession and you become undetectable. So can confuse some survivors, make a good sneak attack. Well, now Dark Devotion will now activate whenever the obsession loses a health state, which means that M2s work too. So nothing crazy. Again, I don't think it'll be used that much. Now here's the favorite perk that is getting any attention, Jolt. I am a major Jolt enjoyer. It is the time we have all been waiting for. Jolt no longer has a cooldown. I still think they need to give it the ability to be affected with an M2, but I'm happy with that. Now, this is very vague. It doesn't say anything about the M2 or not, but I am super stoked for Jolt no longer having a cooldown. I think this will get used a ton. Lethal Pursuer, another one that I do enjoy running with Billy, Huntress, really a lot of killers. You know, Plague, Legion, another one that you could use for Legion or for lethal because it lets you get pressure immediately. On top of the existing effect, they're actually extending the duration by 2 seconds. So I think the max level is 7, so up to 9 seconds, you can get across the map in that time frame. So next we have Gift of Pain. Increase the action speed penalty to 10, 13, and 16%. So the way this works is once you get hooked on that Scourge hook, when you come off and are healed, well, first when you come off, you do have the mangled effect, but once you're healed, you're slower working on gens until you are hurt again. This is just helping that that slowdown there. Another one that I'm actually very excited for from a killer main perspective. Survivor main, I'm kind of like, well, this sucks. But killer main, I'm excited because I do run Thana a lot, opposed to running the original meta slowdowns. I think that Thanatophobia is awesome, being buffed to 4.55 and 5.5% per survivor for a maximum of 18, 20, and 22%. You can get some pretty cool builds with that. I'm excited for this one from the killer main side. Survivor side, didn't need it, but it's fine. It's fine. You took away all the other slowdowns. Then we have Scourge Hook Monstrous Shrine. So they have now made Monstrous Shrine a Scourge Hook. What this does, it will now convert all basement hooks to Scourge Hooks. And then they will also grant 10, 15, and 20% faster entity progression, but only if the killer is not within 24 meters. So realistically, to get true value from this, you want to pair it with another Scourge Hook if you are going for the basement build with it, right? But it also turns those other Scourge Hooks, or it makes that Scourge Hook regress faster. but you have to be further away. So I don't necessarily think you'll get a ton of value from it, but it does make it a little bit more usable, I guess. So those are all the killer nerfs, like I said, or not killer nerfs, but killer reworks. I'm really excited for Jolt. I'm excited for Lethal. I'm excited for Thana. Super awesome. Survivor side. We have Calm Spirit. People are claiming this is a debuff. I don't think so, or a nerf. I think it already silences you from everything, but now you can open chests and cleanse and bless totems silently. So there makes no noise on either of those. But it does reduce the speed of doing so. I don't think that's a nerf. I think that's still very valuable. People just don't run Calm Spirit. Calm Spirit counters so many perks. I think people that run this are going to enjoy this. Saboteur can now identify Scourge hooks. The aura shown in yellow when a survivor is being carried. Use this information to be to your advantage to prevent a Scourge hook from being activated. So you break out Saboteur enjoyers, have fun with that. Botany Knowledge, I do like this. Botany Knowledge now increases healing speed by 30, 40, and 50%, up from 11, 22, and 33. That is huge. Botany is going to get ran a ton. Off the record, this is now the perk I think that will replace BT, as mentioned earlier. After being unhooked, endurance status effect for up to 80 seconds. It is lost when you work on a gen or anything like that, but this perk will counter any tunneling or just any tunneling. This is insane. Insane. This is the new DS, essentially. The only thing is very rarely will it go that long. You usually will get hit immediately, but if you don't touch anything, you're going to have a while before you can be essentially downed again. Lucky Break, another one that I think is great. When you get hurt with Lucky Break, you leave no scratch marks or blood, I believe. If you pair that with, Iron Well in the past, it would make you essentially invisible. But now, you can now recharge it because it just continues to run down while you're injured. Now, each second spent healing another survivor increases Lucky Break's duration by 1 second. So, you're able to recharge it by healing others. Pharmacy, pretty much a medkit farming perk, which gave you an emergency medkit, which is the purple. Pharmacy will activate whenever you're injured, guaranteeing an emergency medkit when you search a chest. So it only works when you're injured. It doesn't work when you're healthy to get that medkit. It can happen multiple times in one trial, so you're able to use it more, but only when injured. I think that's a good adjustment there. Soul Survivor, a perk that doesn't really get used a whole lot. So it does hide your aura. Soul Survivor will now increase your generator repair speed by 75% and your exit gate and hatch action speed by 50%. These effects are only active when you are the last survivor standing. So endgame, it'll make endgame very interesting if you're running Hope, Wake Up, things like that. Can be fun. Distortion, I've always said Distortion isn't usable, but I do like the fact that they're allowing it to be a terror radius token perk. That's kind of cool because now it has viability in being used. Lightweight, make you harder to track. Your scratch marks will also fade 5, 4, 3 seconds sooner, up from 1, 2, and 3. So this will make you disappear. This is good for newer players. Again, I don't think this is going to be used a ton. So we'll move on from that. Deja Vu, now grant a 5% repair speed bonus to the revealed generators. So any generator, I think this one is a reveals generators up to you after like so many meters. I think like 3. I don't really use it. Don't really know a whole lot about it. But to grant a repair speed bonus to the one showing, it gives it viability to go use it because most people know where their gens are anyway. No One Left Behind. No One Left Behind will grant a 7% movement speed bonus to any survivors you unhook. Additionally, the perk now activates when the gates are powered rather than open. So when they start powering them, you start getting that effect. Dark Sense, I featured this in a couple of my YouTube videos in the past. It's the Survivor Bitter Murmur. The next time the killer comes within 24 meters of you, their aura is revealed for 5, 7, and 10 seconds. Dark Sense then deactivates. So essentially, it used to work based on gens. Now, it's based on when a generator is powered, Dark Sense activates. The next time the killer comes within 24 meters of you, it's revealed and then deactivates. So you do have to still do a gen, but they have to be within so many meters of you to get value out of it. You got Tenacity. Tenacity now reduces your grunts of pain by 75% when in the dying state. Combined with the increased crawling speed, this perk will now be much more effective in crawling away from the killer. As long as they fix silent slugs, currently as it stands, I am okay with Tenacity. Because sometimes it's hard to find survivors on the ground because of the bug that we all know and love. But okay, I'm okay with this. My favorite perk that they're reworking on the survivor side is Hope. I have Hope. I love Hope. This is a fun perk to run in endgame. Killers are baffled when they've got that NOED buff and they're not gaining on you like they should. Hope is great. But now, instead of only lasting, I think it's for like 80 seconds in endgame, it is now indefinite. Does not matter. There is no timer. Runs indefinite. Love this. Overzealous, this is a newer perk. I'm shocked to see this get reworked already. If you cleanse a Hex Totem, it doubles how fast you repair gen speed, so it rewards you for getting the hexes. I don't think that's necessarily needed that, but it'll just make the Hex Totems not last. We're going to live forever. Unfortunately, this was a great perk for blood points. It does allow you to also pick up survivors from the ground faster. So upsetting. Healing survivors from the dying state grants them endurance effect for 6, 8, and 10 seconds. So when you pick them up, they will have that endurance effect like a Soul Guard. And that's really the value. It kind of eliminates it. It does help. It gives you a built-in Soul Guard from the picker-upper instead of the person on the ground. I do think this could be used still currently, but again, unfortunate, no blood points, which is ultimately what I'm upset about. So that is the current update. It is supposed to take place on the PTB, I believe, starting next week, as said, which starts on Tuesday. I'm excited to see how these changes work. I will have a video based on builds I'm going to put together and run for Survivor and Killer when that happens. I'm excited for this. I've told you my favorites. I'm excited. I can't keep saying more and more. I'm excited. It's definitely going to change some of the staleness of this game, and I think it's definitely going to be some big changes. So I'm curious to see what the new meta becomes. I'm calling it now. I think Overcharge is going to be ran a lot with Call of Brine. Just throwing that out there. But thank you, everybody, for watching this. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be able to go down this breakdown with you. Enjoy. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, what you think the new meta will be. If you did like the video, please make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all the above. I appreciate your time. Love you all. And remember, y'all, other half the heart. We'll see you guys later. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.